Welcome to the Magnetic Mama Club. I'm Alyssa, energy healer, spiritual soulpreneur, and mindful mama, here to help you reconnect with your soul's purpose and show up as the most authentic version of yourself. In this space, you're part of a community of conscious mamas who trust their intuition and own their magnetic desires. Together, we'll explore how to honor your needs, mother with clarity, and embrace your authentic power. Your journey to a more empowered magnetic life starts now. Welcome back to Magnetic Mama Club with your host, Alyssa, a show all about motherhood, magnetism, and mindfulness. Today, I have on a very special guest in honor of Mother's Day week, which is my mom, Wendy. And she is my best friend. And it was really hard to put 32 years of our life together into 1 hour. She also was like, I'm not an expert. What are people going to take away from this? And I was like, but you're a mom and you have experience, and she's a stepmom to two other children and to my brother. So she has 4 children altogether that she has helped, been part of their lives. And she had her son later in life. So she's been through it many different times in different phases of life, different generations. And we talk about just what she learned through this experience as being a mom and being a mom to a highly spirited child, and difficult things we went through, such as divorce, and just what she's learned in general from community and from other moms and her own mom, my grandmom, and my other grandmom, her mother-in-law, and just all the women in our life that have shaped who we are. And so I think it's important to recognize, you know, where we came from, and how we are then nurturing and taking care of others is from this foundational place. So I really hope that you take something away from this. I know that it was really special for me to have my mom on as a guest, since we are so close. She's the kind of mom that I can call about literally anything, whether that's like asking a recipe, like tip, or even though she's not a good cook, but she does have good recipes, or, really intense conversations like, where did this trauma come from? So I'm really grateful that I have a mom in my life like this, and a mother figure, and all the other mother figures I have from grandmothers and mother-in-law and stepmother that really helped raise me. And I hope that me and Stevie have the bond that me and my parents were divorced when I was young. So my mom was a single mom for a bit. We were so close, and that's really how we have grown together. We've been so close my whole life. My dad used to joke that we need to cut the umbilical cord when we were obsessed with each other, and still very close into my teen years and adult years. And I'm grateful that I have a mom like that, and I hope that Stevie calls me for things. But at the same time, we talk about how, you know, just because we're so close, there are boundaries, and I'm not doing similar things that my mom did, and what that looks like from that relational point of, just because you're been really close to your mom your whole life, you can still then do things differently, and you can still be your own mom and your own version of yourself, and you can take what you learned from them, but you're still at the end of the day your own person. And how do you have space for being that authentic self? So really hope that you enjoy it, and can't wait to hear what you think. To Magnetic Mama Club. I have a very special guest today who happens to be my mom. So today I have Wendy Schwartz. She is a mom of 4, technically. I'll get into that. She is a Libra, to a fault, I will add. She is the kindest, most caring, selfless person I know. And she's my best friend. So I'm so honored to have her share her wisdom and our bond and our relationship and our upbringing together. So welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having me as your special guest.
This is a Mother's Day special. We have been preparing for this. She has her note cards. I ask all my guests, and I know the answer. So if you want me to say my opinion on what kind of mom you are, and then you want to share what you think your definition of the way you mother is. But I ask my guests, if you could describe in a sentence or a word, how you mother, what would you say?
Okay, you can say it and then I'll add on.
Okay. Well, I mean, aside from being very close and being my best friend and I can lean on, you are a perfectionist. You are a helicopter mom, like through and through. And I recently heard of a new term called lawnmower mom, which essentially, or lawnmower parent, means you pave the way so that there's no obstacles in your child's way. You take care of anything that's stopping or blocking them from joy and happiness. And it kind of resonated a bit. So how would you explain that?
Well, I think you're right on. I definitely was a helicopter mom. Growing up, I can remember that I always wanted to do everything correct and never get in trouble and somewhat perfect. So that's what I knew. And I feel like that was the type of mom that I was. Probably am a little bit still, but I really work on it. So I definitely helicoptered over you, making sure that everything was taken care of for you, and probably never wanted to see you upset or sad or cry. And I can see that it definitely was a mistake. I think it was a little overbearing. It's more like my type A personality as well. So I think when I realized when you were a little older,
You mean now you still do it?
a little bit, but when you were a little older, I realized that you are your own person and I have to let you figure things out and stumble and fall and get hurt or have emotions that aren't always happy. Again, it's something that I had to learn and sort of like take a step back. And it's really hard for me to be out of control of a situation. I'm just so used to controlling things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's difficult, but through you and being your mom, I've learned how to do it, and I constantly have to remember it and practice it often.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have evolved, I would say, since I was little, but she's a Jewish mom. So, coming to my apartment and making sure the second you're there, you're helping clean and putting things away. That's just what you do. Like we organize together, which I think that helped set me up for how I am as a person. And I'm not going to blame you for everything because I think you did an amazing job, but I definitely realized that I don't want to do similar things with Stevie. So think what you know, and then like you do
Yeah,
the best you can with the
right,
information you're given and the life that you're living.
right.
And, we had an interesting upbringing and, went through a divorce. And so we came really close. There's just a lot of things we went through that not many mom and daughters, I think, go through, and that made us stronger in the long run. So I would love to hear, I guess, about what that was like because we have a lot of parallels, and you always say this. We have a lot of parallels in life where similar things that we've done in terms of how we're living. So you can give background on the fact that, when you married my dad, you guys moved to Roanoke, Virginia, which is very strange and different. And I was born in Roanoke, Virginia. And, you lived there. You lived away from your mom and family. And then you became a mom and you had to find your footing. You had to find your community. So can you share what that was like? Because similarly, obviously, we're not hours apart, but we aren't down the street. I can't just have you come on a random night and like babysit or have a date
Yeah,
night. Like you're
yeah.
not there. So it's not been the easiest. And there's times where I'm like, I wish I had my mom and I wish, I lived down the street and it would be so much easier. But I think it does make our time more special. But if you want to share what that was like being in a totally different state than your mom and how it you think maybe made you stronger as a mom and built up your resilience.
Well, it definitely made me stronger. My mom and I, as you know, you're Bubby. So when I refer to Bubby, everyone will know. She was also my best friend and is my best friend. And we were super, super close. So I went to college and lived at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I was used to being with Bubby all the time and picking up and moving 6 hours away to a very small town, which didn't have too much going on. I mean, there was like one major department store, and I worked there. I was
Bloomingdale?
no, it was Hex
Oh.
department store, and I was the assistant store manager with a pretty big job. So, that was sort of like a crazy experience to go through, as a young married couple with your dad.
Yeah.
And we had to find our way. We had to find friendships. So we joined the local synagogue. We met a lot of people. We did things with the community to get our, build friendships and be with people. I even remember that we were in charge of the youth leader group for teens when we lived in Roanoke, your dad and I, and we actually enjoyed it. It was fun. So we met a lot of families that way. And I also had some really great friends at work. One particular that Karen, who was a mom of twin girls, and they were born a year before you. So she really helped me with a lot of things, and insecurities and just was just a great friend there for me. But I think when you don't live near your family, the most important thing you can do is find your people, find your village. I think it's great when your grandparents live nearby and your parents live nearby and your cousins and your siblings, but it doesn't, always work out. Like I had a tremendous village when I came home after your dad and I did get divorced and you were only a little over a year old. I had to rely on that village immensely of family and friends.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so important to be able to rely on people and have the help when you need it. And it became a great community of friends that had children and daughters, especially your age or maybe a little older or younger. And we all did things together. So it was like really beautiful. And my advice for you, just because I don't live around the corner, and I wish I did, I wish I could say, go get your nails done and I'll be over in an hour and relieve, a few hours for you and Matt to go out to dinner. Because we can't do that, you have to do the same. You have to like rely on, your friends in your community and, be there for each other. You're always going to need more than just you and Matt to raise Stevie. And that is such a true expression. It takes a village. It really does.
And how did that village change, like you were saying, when you did get divorced and you eventually moved into your mom's? And, that was a completely different phase where friends were around. My dad wasn't there. So you were kind of a single mom for a bit. How did
That's
it?
been, well, I touched on it a little, but I basically really relied on so many people to help me
Yeah.
because I worked full time and it was a sales job at the time. So it was flexible, but I worked full time. And I did have to rely on your grandmother and your grandparents that didn't live that far. Maybe it was a little less than an hour away. And my brother and friends that would help, like if I needed them to get you you went to preschool at the time. And I did rely on other people to help with taking care of you, picking you up, getting you home. And we lived with Bubby. So she was just an amazing attribute for all of us and really just helped keep our family going.
And you and I shared a room, which brought us closer. We technically co-slept. It probably wasn't the term then. I mean, I know I had my own crib in the room, but do you feel like that made us closer? Do you feel like there was times where you're like, I'm going to create a bad habit, like I shouldn't be doing this, or like she needs her own space, I need my own space? Like, how were you able to take then time for yourself? And
I never really thought about it. I
yeah,
didn't like put the analytical piece and say, oh, here's an option. We're going to share a room. What does that look like? There was no option. We sort of came home and stayed with Bubby at the time, and we shared a bedroom. You had a crib in there, I had a bed. I put you to sleep. I'd go hang with Bubby and, I'd let you sleep and then I'd creep in the room. Sometimes you slept with me, maybe when you were a little older, but sometimes you have to do things out of necessity. So we just shared a room for a few years. It was not even a big deal. I enjoyed it. It was fun. And of course, I organized as much as I could all your toys, put everything away, and just, made it a content place for us.
yeah. Growing up in the 90s, raising kids is a little bit different than how we're raising with technology, with monitors, with every possible device and app and Instagram and experts and people just constantly sharing so much noise. How did you think that maybe made you more in tune with your mother instincts versus like not having a lot of resources? Like, what was that like not having Instagram at your fingertips telling you how to mother all the time?
Well, I think it's harder for you and your generation. I didn't look at it back then. What did I know any different? Everybody read the same books, especially like what to expect when you're expecting. Everybody took Lamaze classes with their local hospital. There was always doctors that would tell you things that you had to know. I felt very prepared that I was going to be a mom. I didn't go into it with anxiety, which is rare for me.
Yeah,
I thought it
shocking.
was like easy and beautiful and not easy every minute, but just like the challenge was not this horrible, scary, difficult thought process. And it's funny when you bring up monitors because we did have monitors, but they were not where you could like look and watch. And I kind of feel that look and watch. I was doing that for a little while with Stevie, and I'm thinking, okay, you could like watch too much. I kind of just liked that I would go in your room, I
Yeah.
would tiptoe in, I would tickle your feet. I would make sure you were breathing and walk out,
Yeah.
and it was just so different. There weren't sleep sacks and,
You're on your feet to make sure you're breathing bands.
yeah, we didn't have all that.
Yeah.
We had bumpers. I'm not sure
Yeah,
why.
I know.
I know that nobody does now, but yeah, you grew
It's
up
amazing
with
how things change.
bumpers and bedding, and yeah,
Like probably a million stuffed animals like all over.
no, we didn't do that.
No.
I mean, you played with them, but they weren't in your crib.
Yeah.
Just one.
Well, and also just
one
talk about
ducky.
our dog who would just be so in tune with us because we didn't even like I think that was so cool. What was the dog's name? Madison, who would know when I would wake up, like so instinctually just go in my room and wake you if I was awake, right? That was his way of
Yep, it was cute. His little way of communicating with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were good friends.
And it's definitely hard, and I know that like you did a lot of similar things too. You did breastfeed me for a year, which I did with Stevie, and I think it was amazing that you did that back then. Did you get judgment? Were you also doing formula? Like, what did that look like as a working mom?
I mean, breastfeeding was easy. I was off for a period of time, so I got the hang of it. I worked with a lactation person, and they helped me through any questions that I, had. And you learn about this also in the hospital, just like anyone else does now. I think it was a great bond between us. I enjoyed it. Yes, there were difficult times. Yes, there was pain. Yes, it was uncomfortable, but I enjoyed doing it. I thought it was a great experience. Every mom's different. Some people will love it. Some people won't want to do it. And I think there's no right or wrong answer. But for me, I really did enjoy it. I did supplement because I did work. So I did supplement with formula for you.
What were the pumps like back then?
They were big and intrusive. And when you I carried them in a big bag, but I took them to work every day and shut my door, locked my door, and pumped when I had to. And, I made it through the year, but it became a little less and less, more like morning and at nighttime,
It was like me.
But I enjoyed doing it, and I, did it twice, so survived it 2 times.
We'll get into your second child, but I want to talk a little bit more about, so food was obviously you didn't have baby-led weaning. You did purees, like that wasn't a thing in your generation.
Yeah, and I'm happy it wasn't, as I've told you. Even though I get it and I really like the experience, and I think you're a great mom with how you feed your daughter. But, everyone laughs because I am like, I cut things little itty bitty pieces. On my watch, I don't want any problems. So
and you bought me, what is the thing you bought me? The suction thing in case she chokes.
Oh,
in case to have like,
yes.
Yeah. Haven't used it, thank God.
Thank God. Let's not even talk about that but I just chopped, cut, parade, whatever it was. And you were a good eater. I don't.
My dad says I ate chicken nuggets growing up.
Well, you did when you were a little older, but you ate a lot of things and you loved vegetables until you didn't love broccoli. But that's another story.
Yeah, we don't
have to get into that. But
with Stevie, I just noticed how it's helped her eat food so much. Like she's just an amazing appetite. She eats everything we eat. I don't know. A lot of people, even my friends, are scared of the concept of baby-led weaning. Like I get it. It's scary, but when you have the knowledge and you trust yourself, and I did, and she eats amazing now.
I think it's a great way to introduce your child to food. It just wasn't an opportunity for me. So this is what we did, Yeah.
Okay. You kind of touched on how you were a perfectionist. And I know we've talked about how I was a perfectionist. Do you think that was growing up from you? Do you think that's just how I was being a Virgo? Like, were there tendencies you saw? I want to talk about my temperament and how you dealt with it because I'm entering toddler phase. And I know I was a great toddler according to you. I had no problems until I was much older. But what was it like?
High energy, very spirited, wanted your way, tried to get your way as much as possible, definitely pushed boundaries. So it wasn't always easy, and it certainly wasn't always fun, but we managed to make it work. I probably gave in more than I should have, but I think, again, when you go through a divorce and being remarried, and I think grandparents on both sides, your father, me, I think everybody just wanted things to be easy and for you to be okay. So I think we gave in more than we all should have,
Yeah.
recognizing that. But
Well, you took a
it's okay.
on
I
highly
did.
spirited
I did
children.
take a class with one of my friends, Marla, on highly spirited children. It was a great class on how to parent kids differently because, you know, you don't really know how to parent. You're just like either following what your mother did or what your grandmother did or some support role model that you've had. And I think it's just you use your intuition the best you can.
Yeah.
But truly, every child is different. And every child, you have to really understand what they're interested in, what makes them happy, what makes them tick, what they're thinking. And then I think it can be maybe a little bit better on how you're parenting. And I didn't know all that at the time.
Yeah.
It's something that I had to learn. And as you grow, I think it got a little better. You were fresh. You weren't the easiest.
We
You
still
weren't the
fight. We
easiest.
still fight. It's fine.
You weren't the easiest.
But I remember like watching, because I don't know, you used to punish me. It was like normal to punish. We used to watch The Nanny. Was that what it was called? Where the lady would come into people's houses and like
Yeah.
teach how to reprimand properly. And I think there was a lot good about it because she was trying to get on the kids' level. But like personally, I don't want to do timeouts. I know you did timeouts. Like, do you think those helped? What
I don't
did you
even know.
learn
I
through
don't
it?
even really know what anyone's doing now, but I
Yeah.
can tell you back then, I think they work when you're really little, but I think the older you get, there's got to be a better communication between.
I feel like you said, we've talked about this, like you didn't want to see me suffer. You didn't want to see me upset. And it's also hard for a mom to see their child going through many range of emotions. And sometimes you just kind
Right.
of give in and
I have to say, as a parent, as a mom especially, I'm very sensitive. I think you're very sensitive. And to watch your child struggle for whatever reason it is, and when you walk away from that situation and you have a minute alone, you feel sad. You sit there and say, I'm so sad my child is suffering, or I'm also sad that I can't fix it. And sometimes I even cried
yeah.
because you can't be fixing every situation for your child. So I think you just have to really learn to just get cues from your children, see what they're really, what they're about. Maybe that's a better way to.
Definitely seems highly spirited.
She's starting to seem like,
Yeah.
yes.
But I think we have the resources now more of like you had this class, but I just think there's just so much more. And when I talk about this with experts on this topic, they say our parents didn't know. They didn't have this awareness back then. And
Right.
so now that we have these tools, they're, on one hand it's hard because there's so much information out there. But then there are things like these experts that do have better ways of doing things and hopefully emotionally supporting children differently. That you guys didn't just you didn't have the tools or the awareness.
Yeah. And I think it's great. Parents parent one way and grandparents parent another.
Yeah.
They like give in more. They give them that candy and that cookie.
You don't do that for Stevie.
No, I don't. Not
You
yet.
do that.
But I might.
And sugar. Okay, let's get into spirituality and how me and Bubby were very close, just like you and I are close and you and her are close. We're 3 generations of maternal, strong women. And Bubby and I are spiritual. What was that like, I guess, hanging around us? Did you think it was strange? Were you like worried about what she was doing?
Well, I wouldn't be worried. I knew you were safe with your grandma. You know what? I thought it was all a little woo-woo. I mean, Bubby was really into these things when people really never talked about like Reiki or meditation. And she joined many groups and went to meetings all the time. She did like something called the Course of Miracles, I remember. And she actually made some great friends and she really enjoyed it. And at 8 years old, I don't know, she said, I'm taking Alyssa to this Reiki course, which she did. And it was for children specifically. And it was like a few sessions and you got certified in Reiki as like an 8-year-old, which I didn't even understand it until Bobby did Reiki on me. And she did it on you many times. And I saw it's really helpful. It's very relaxing,
you
very
asked
calming.
me to you'll call me and say, send me Reiki when you're
Well, now I do. But I'm saying back then, I really didn't think about it in that way. I was very unaware. And I remember when we went shopping to the store for crystals, And I thought it was fascinating that they all mean something very different. And I find that to be so interesting that they have like a crystal for every emotion, for everything, for healing powers. You were really into it. We used to collect them. You had a giant box of crystals. You also had a box of stones. Like you would pick stones up, shells up. You were really into all of those powers that you thought that they gave you and helped you and made you feel more secure. So I think it's nice, and it's interesting to see how it's carried you through to your adulthood now.
Yeah.
And how you've passed it along to your brother Jake and to me and to some of your girlfriends. And I even know, like, when your friends got married, you give everyone like a stone for like
Give them Reiki
protection.
on their wedding day.
You give people Reiki on their wedding day. I think it's very special
Yeah.
because everybody is moving too fast, high energy, lots of anxiety in the world. And you have found a way to take your own struggles, your own insecurities, your own fears, your own anger, your own anxiety, and has transformed it into this mindset, this big shift of teaching and teaching people how to manifest tranquility and all of that. So I think it's great.
Yeah. I mean, I used to carry crystals, you said, to tests in high school. In college, you would come with me. I don't know why you were in the room with me, but you would come with me to get chakra alignment Reiki with, remember the woman Wendy? And you were like in the room. And
Yes. Yes.
it was like a way for me to reground my high energy.
Yeah.
And
Really, you liked it. And
yeah.
but we do have to add our sorry
Yeah.
stone,
I saw the sorry stone.
because I think it's really was clever at the time. But when you
Who
were
came up with this idea?
me,
Oh.
this is my idea.
Okay, Wendy, trademarked by Wendy.
Oh, yes,
Sure.
trademarked by Wendy. The sorry stone. When we would go outside picking stones, which were many, we used to paint them because you're very creative. We'll get back to that, but you're very creative. So we used to paint stones, put cute little eyes on them, and decorate them.
Yeah.
And one day I said, why don't we write some letters? And we actually wrote the word sorry on a stone, which I think became this really clever tactic of motherhood, because I think it's really hard for children to say they're sorry, whether they have to say it to a friend that they maybe hit or took their turn or stole their toy, or maybe it's just a fight with a sibling, or just you're not being polite to me. And we took that sorry stone very seriously. And I have to say, you had it a lot. You needed it a lot. But instead of apologizing, you would hand me or your brother or someone the sorry stone, and the words couldn't come at that moment. But then when you calmed down, you would always apologize. But I think it was like break the ice with our sorry stone. So I just think it was a clever instrument that we needed.
I'll be using that with Stevie because I think it will be good for her and me. I love that we did that. And I know that, like, yeah, I was a little different growing up. Like I was more creative. What were things about me that makes sense to how I'm living my life now that were like, oh, that makes sense, or like that you thought I was going to be doing that? You're like, that, wow, wasn't expecting that about.
Well, I absolutely thought you were going to go to school and be a teacher.
Yeah.
Only because, like, again, we had this phenomenal schoolhouse in the basement. You played with Natalie, your sister, you played with your friends, with me. And when you were in school, like, you were so artistic. So you designed a lot of great, like, art projects for school, but also scrapbooking and poetry. You would write poetry, you would write stories. I mean, like, stories that weren't even like, like 20-page stories that had nothing. It wasn't even an assignment from class. And you just were so good at it.
Yeah.
And you also were very organized.
Yeah.
Everything was really organized. So, like, you do have tendencies like me where you want everything somewhat like organized and perfect a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Still do.
so I definitely thought you were going to be a teacher. So segue now, I think that you do teach because you're teaching people how to be more spiritual, how to be more centered. You've come up with some programs and courses that you've taught, and, teaching people about spirituality and about also motherhood and how you eat, your journey with healthy living, with eating and with toxins and chemicals and things you put into your body. And, I do feel like you do teach people many things to live a healthier life. And I think it's segued.
I feel like you growing up, we tried to do sports. I lasted like a day in
Yeah, it
soccer.
wasn't well now when you played basketball
Oh,
with
I did
one of your
actually play
friends, Isabel.
basketball.
You
I was
played
pretty
basketball
good.
for a few years. I'm not
Yeah.
sure who else played. Maybe Brielle. I
Yeah.
can't remember.
But we didn't even talk about that. We should probably talk about all the friends you have, but we'll get to that in a second. But I just feel like that wasn't my thing. And I knew it in my heart. And I like would quit things. And maybe to you, like you were annoyed, like she's not sticking with things. But I always felt like you didn't force me to do things. Like you trusted where I was going and what I wanted to do. And I just think that kind of like gave me permission in life. And now that I know, I mean, you don't know much about human design, but you're a projector. So like we
Right.
have this issue, this thing sometimes is we butt heads because projectors, and it's fascinating that you're a projector because we're both non-energy beings, meaning we don't have our own energy. We take from other people. So I'm a reflector. We're both the more rare type. And as a projector, you have to wait for invitations to like do something. And if you don't, and you do something on your own, you tend to get a little like resentful or annoyed. And that's something you do. And I remind you of it. I try to
Uh-huh.
like bring you back to that like authentic
Right.
place of yourself. But it's just interesting because as a reflector, I don't have a lot of energy of my own. I need to like explore. I need to try new things. Like I feel like I was always trying new things constantly. And that's just
Mm-hmm.
how I've been my whole life. Like, I'd take a job, I would try it, I would take whatever it is in life. I just feel like I would test the waters before I fully committed
Right.
to
Which
things.
is complete opposite of me
Right.
because I've had the same job like my whole life.
Yeah.
So it's like very hard for me to see the way you shift
Yeah.
but it's
Did,
beautiful, but it's difficult to watch sometimes.
well, I mean, with that, you had a job like from the moment I was born. Did you ever feel like mom guilt or that you didn't want to work or you wanted to be a stay-at-home mom? What was that like? Because I struggle with it sometimes. And I know that we have similarities in the sense that my schedule's flexible. I can kind of make my own schedule. And I think I took that from growing up watching how you parented me.
Right.
But what was that like?
I mean, I love working. I
Yeah.
always have. I always knew that I was going to be a working mom. I was blessed that when your dad and I got divorced and I moved home, I did find a job in sales so that I could be with you and be flexible to run into school, to handle things if I had to for you to pick you up from school, to take you to activities. So it never bothered me that I was working. I wanted to work. And I feel like it shows, you and your brother that like it's important to,
Yeah.
to also be your own person
Hmm.
and authentic to myself. And I don't know what I would do if I didn't work.
Yeah. I mean,
So
even now when you're like, you want to retire one day, I think you still need something.
I will be doing something when we retire,
Yeah.
probably running a podcast because I'm so darn good at
Yeah.
this.
I mean, let's just do it together.
I don't think so.
We kill each other. But no, I love that. And I think it gave me a lot of work ethic growing up, but also, like you said, the balance. Like, I think I was always knew before becoming a mom that I wanted that flexibility. I knew I wanted to be able to take off when I can and just be with
Right,
my baby. So
right.
you did give me that. And let's talk a little bit about, you know, friendship and just you talked about community a little bit, you talked about the village, but you have a unique situation where you were friends with all of my friends' moms growing up, and that still is something that's like really an amazing bond we all have. Like our neighbors are our friends. We've grown up since we're some friends since we're babies, since we're
Mm-hmm.
preschool, since middle school. And I know that this has become your friends usually because you have to, but these were friends you actually knew from high school and growing up. And I just
Some
think
of them,
it's
yeah.
pretty crazy that you're still
Mhm.
friends with them. I'm still friends with them. What was that like? And
Well, I mean, I think it's rare and beautiful, and we're blessed. I feel very blessed with friendships that I have, and even the ones that aren't from, let's say, elementary school, middle school, or high school, but the moms that I met through you. I mean, I feel lucky. We're lucky that we have these bonds, and even though life takes us on different journeys, and not everything is constant, and you live further away, and we're not always together, I still think it's just special to have that bond. So I'm
yeah.
grateful for that, and I'm sure you are too. We've talked about it before, and I love all your friends from growing up, and I love all your new friends.
And we also, I just think, have a huge family because of divorce and remarriage. So talk about being a stepmom for a minute, about being an older mom. And you mean technically you're a mom of four, not
Mm-hmm.
that you birthed all children, but you
Mm-hmm.
might as well. Like they're like your second kids. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm curious what that was like being a stepmom.
Well, when I met Robbie, we decided that we were going to become a family, and we knew we would be a blended family. Obviously, Robbie had 2 children. They're my stepchildren. I love Justin and Natalie as much as I love you and Jake. And I feel blessed that it's sort of like this mesh of everyone. And when Robbie and I decided we were going to spend our life together, we said the kids come first. We wanted to make sure that all of you felt really comfortable with each other and with this experience of blending a family. And I think we were very fortunate because it worked really well. It works well. And some of the, the positives is for me, I made a decision that I was going to be inclusive of everyone because it's my personality. I don't like confrontation. I don't like when people fight. I don't like when people feel hurt or left out. So to me, including everyone, we have this extended family because we are so inclusive. And I feel grateful for all the extra set of family that we all grew up with on
I'm
every
grateful
way.
that you welcomed in your in-laws that were a huge part of my life. They would come to family dinners. Like it just felt like nothing had changed, even though we went through divorce and we went through that. Like it could have separated.
Yes.
But it was just something
I
that
feel very special and special bond with Rozzy and JJ and Adam, and your dad and I get along. I mean, we make it work. We all make everything work. And I never wanted you to feel left out because of a divorce. So I wanted everyone to just try to, keep everything going like one big happy family.
Yeah.
And, and then later I decided to have another kid.
At what age? Everyone.
41. I had Jake at 41
and
planned, and it was the best decision that Robbie and I made.
Yeah.
And he's a great kid. And who's graduating? Yay! Yeah. Graduating this next weekend. Yeah. But he just completed our family. It just, worked out really great. And look at you. You have lots of siblings. You have also another brother. So you have,
technically, even though I never had, I have 5 siblings, but none are fully blood related. People are like, what? Like, no one understands it. And I have to explain the dynamic in the family tree. And they're like, I've never heard anything like this where you're just all so close and you make it work. And I just remember growing up, never using the word step, thinking that Natalie and Justin were just my brother and sister and still are. And now we have nieces and nephews, and it's just beautiful to see how it's grown and evolved.
Yep, it's very nice.
I guess, what was it like being a second-time mom to Jake then? Do you think
how I parented differently?
Or you were more chill, but I would say probably not.
Well, I was more chill because I also had Robbie there in the house. So, you and I, for a few years, were kind of by ourselves, and we had a lot of adjustments that you had to make because your father got remarried, I got remarried. Now we were a bigger family. We moved a few times. Yeah. You started new schools. I just feel like there was a lot of things that were going on that, Jay came along at a different time. I realized some things that I could have improved on. Nothing has to be perfect, and let him figure some things out on his own. And, he's certainly a different type of child as well, different type of energy. I wouldn't say he was as high-spirited, but he also was very busy. So we needed him to just be able to run around a lot, get all that energy out. I definitely learned lessons. I think you always do. First time around, you're going to make mistakes that you're thinking the second time you're not going to make. And maybe you don't make those, but you're making other ones. Yeah. We're always making mistakes. We're never getting it perfect. We're never getting it right all the time.
Do you think you're more chill?
I think I'm chill, but I have to remind myself to be chill, and not all the time. Because all my friends, if they listen, they'll laugh. I am definitely not chill all the time, but I have to remind myself to be chill and look at things in a different way.
Yeah. Well, thank God for Robbie, because he grounds you, and he's our...
Yes.
You need someone like
we
that.
Love Robbie.
Like Matt, he does that for me. And
let's talk about Matt.
Let's talk about Matt, who you've known just as long.
We literally, I said, that's the one thing we got to talk about Matt. I've known him since he's about 16 years old.
Since Halloween, when this random kid comes up to Sydney Rubino's house and is like, hey.
He introduced himself to all of us, and we talked about how close all the neighbors were. Yeah. and all
I
the
couldn't
kids.
believe
And he
it.
said, "Oh my God, this is so nice. Like, I want to hang with you guys and I'll come to dinner." He literally invited himself to our house for dinner. So like, I thought that was like really funny.
Yeah.
But then he started hanging around. So you definitely,
Didn't you come with us on our first date because we couldn't even drive at this point? I feel like we went to a restaurant in
I dropped
Southampton.
you off.
Oh.
I dropped you off and picked you up. I wasn't on the date. But and I didn't
You
want to
called
be
a
on the
date.
date. I'm not that bad.
Yeah,
So,
I guess.
but you know, he's been in our life for a really long time, and I think he's was a great kid. But you two pushed each other's buttons for a while there when you
Yeah.
were like a senior, because I feel like, I mean, I really have to admit, I think it's more you.
Yeah,
You
it
wanted to,
was.
you wanted to be with him 24/7,
Mhm.
and he needed a break and wanted to be with his friends, and that just drove you nuts. And I kept thinking, oh, just don't worry about it. They're going to college, and
Mhm.
this is not going to be a forever thing, until you got into school in Maryland. Towson and Matt went to Maryland, and I'm like, wow, they're an hour apart.
Mhm.
So then Mindy, Matt's mom, and I are like, oh, yeah, this might be a thing. This might be lasting longer. And you guys were really committed to each other all 4 years of college. And I still then said, oh, they'll probably break up after they get their jobs. And, you know, like, I don't know. I just never really thought about it until you got your job in New York, your first job out of college, and said, I'm going. And I was thinking to myself, she's going without Matt? Like, what? And then, what, 2 months later, he had a job in New York.
Because he called me.
And
So
then,
the roles
right,
burst.
right.
'Cause
And then I said to myself, oh, this is it. This is done. This is it. And yeah.
I mean, I know growing up you wanted me to date other people. I think that's just moms want that. But I think you grew to love him.
Oh, I love Matt, and he's a great husband. He's a great son-in-law, and he's just a great dad. He's trying really hard to be like just the best dad he can be. So it makes me happy.
I mean, we're all very close. Like in high school, I kind of lost myself in him, and then I grew. And you even said to me, like, I think a pivotal moment for my growth was going away to college, because I was a homebody. I loved being at home with you guys. I loved, you know, I thought I was going to stay in the neighborhood like you did with your mom, and I think that was kind of the beginning of my growth and this growth
Absolutely.
edge.
Because look now, like, no, one day you'll have a house not near me. Bummer, boo-hoo.
Could move in the in-law suite like we talked about.
Yep.
That's fine. I mean, sorry, I'm going to say this, so I can cut it if you want, but you've literally driven to college to take a pregnancy test for me, with me, because I was
Not
too
for you.
soon.
I did not take the test for you.
But with
Therefore,
me,
that would have been false.
with me, it was false, thank God. But
Yeah, it was false. I didn't say that right. Meaning, whatever.
And
Yeah.
then I wasn't planning to have you in the birth room, but I didn't have a doula, and you became my doula essentially. And I invited you like morning of, I'm in
Yeah.
labor. You were actually with me the day before, and I knew I was going into labor. And
It was crazy because we celebrated Rosh Hashanah
yeah,
with Hannah and Robbie and Abby, and we were having this great dinner, and Abby said, don't leave. Don't leave.
yeah, you knew.
And I said, I'm going home. It could be 4 or 5 days I have to work. And then you called me in the middle of the
I
night.
was so emotional the day before. Like, I was so happy I was with you that day, just because I felt really off. And I was like, we got our nails done, but tell what it was like being in the birth room with me and experiencing that, because I was like, I was hesitant. That was a boundary that I was like, I don't want my mom in the room. And I thought growing up, like, I have to have my mom. Like, I always pictured you in the room. But then I was like, no, we're going to bicker. I want like really calmness. So explain the experience that I cultivated. And then
Well, it was a surprise, so I was elated. And, it was an honor that you wanted me to be in the room. I thought I was really chill, actually. I think I was really chill in the room.
There's only one moment I wanted to kill you and Matt.
Oh, I know exactly what. We were talking about dinner. We were starving.
Nonstop. I was so nauseous.
Yeah, we really were talking about food a lot. Like we both took our breaks for lunch, and we felt very satisfied. We should have had more snacks in the room. So please get the family snacks in the room. But we were going to take turns going to dinner, and I remember the nurse said, oh, where do you two think you're going? Even separate. Show's on. You're not going. So we never got to eat. So I remember after Stevie was born, Matt ran like an hour and a half later, like at midnight, to like the diner. We were like devouring the food. It was pretty funny. But I was so proud of you because you were so prepared. And I know it's like a thing, especially if your generation, everybody is so overly prepared. The gown and, the music, and they have everything sort of figured out. But I just thought you were so chill with the entire experience. You had a beautiful vision board, which I said you should teach all moms to have this vision board because it was just so personal to you, but it was just beautiful. So you could stare at your vision board. You had those candles. You had some scents that you could sniff if you needed to. You had a lot of things to help you focus and stay centered. I think you were a great student. You really listened to whatever, the midwife, your
Oh, you were
doctor,
at the doula appointment too, so I think that prepped you. You were when the doula came
to your house
to that
to
like
guide you.
6 hour
Yeah.
personal
Maybe,
session. I think that helped
maybe.
you a bit too.
But I feel like there were difficult moments, and I think you really rose to the occasion. I mean, what choice do you have? But you weren't complaining. You were just so centered on making everything just be this beautiful, even though it was painful, intentional setting. And till Stevie came into the
And you
world.
saw everything.
I saw
You
what I
saw a
saw.
lot.
Yeah, but you know what? I was focused on that you were okay
Did it bring up
because
like
you're my baby,
yeah.
and focus that your baby was okay. That's all that matters.
And that's the one thing, like, I think having, even if your family doesn't live nearby, like you stayed with us for 2 weeks as much as you could.
Well, I got sick
You
and
got
had to leave, and thank
got
God you had
strep.
Mindy. You had
Yeah.
Mindy and Matt's grandma Marcy, which fabulous. We all kind of pitched in and all helped out, which was very needed. I think all moms need whatever help it is, whether it's a nurse, a doula,
But you
family.
prepped food for me so that we would have meals. You prepped, like, you took care of me, and you were like my doula, my postpartum
Yeah,
night
it was
nurse.
fun.
You tried to help. I mean, as
I
much as
tried
you
the best I
could with
could.
breastfeeding.
Yeah,
But thanks for being part of that with me.
absolutely. It was wonderful.
Maybe not for the next one, but
Maybe not the next one.
yeah. Do you think that like shaped me and helped me grow? You were shocked that I like was going away to school and going to New York.
Absolutely. I mean, you used to cry at overnights.
Mm-hmm.
You used, if you would have a sleepover, you cried if I was away.
I went to
You
camp.
cried at camp. You didn't. You went, but you didn't love it. You did a teen tour. You liked it. You never really loved all these experiences because I think you just wanted to be home. So picking up and moving to college, I was shocked. But, I do have to say the first day was agonizingly painful. The ride home with Robbie, the 2 hour ride home, that I was on the phone with you the entire time while you were crying. So that wasn't great. But I also remember when I had to leave my mom and drive the car to Roanoke, Virginia, a 6 hour ride. I spoke to her and I cried.
Yeah.
I cried the whole way. So it's hard leaving your mom.
Home base.
It's like,
And because we have this like such special bond, it was hard. And like, even throughout being in New York, I would call you every single day, like on my walks. I joke, I'll send you reels that I see. It's like, what are you doing? What are you eating?
Yeah.
It's
We
just
do
like,
talk a lot, and we're not the only moms. I know other mother and daughters that do, but I like it. And sometimes they're
Don't change
3-second conversations just to be like, I'm running into the grocery store. I'm going to be making whatever soup tonight.
But I love that I can talk to you about really anything. Like we can talk about trauma and I can go there with you. I can literally be like, can you answer this for me? Because I want to work through things, and you'll do it. Like you'll literally be honest and open. And I think it just helps us have this open communication.
I hope so. That's the
So I
intention.
hope that was Stevie. But I do at the same time think that I've grown in the sense that, not that I don't need you as much, but as a mom, I've learned to not call you for every single thing. Like, I hope Stevie calls me every single day, but I also want her to feel independent. And I think I'm independent more than I was. And I don't know if it's motherhood that changed me.
And that's why I know I have to zip my lips when I tell you how to parent. Like I don't do it over everything by any means, but there's times I'm like,
times you like
and
overstep the boundary.
I'm like, okay, it's not my daughter. Shut the mouth. Sometimes I have to do that.
We work through.
Yep. But you've taught me a lot of things. I've learned a lot of lessons from you too. So as you grew up, I learned things from you to like, certainly we talk about it all the time, to be in the moment, to chill more, to enjoy just like literally the most simple things, because I'm so task oriented, so perfectionist and so organized that I tend to just run through and not stop. So when you get me to go apple picking and smell flowers and pick lavenders and go for walks in the park and our Saturday farmers markets. I love every minute of it.
Even if I drag you along and it wasn't planned or like,
You know what? Sometimes our unplanning turns out to be our best days.
yeah.
So I'm realizing that.
Yeah.
So I do enjoy all the nature and all the things that we share that you're now sharing with Stevie, that Bubby always used to love too. She used to literally stop the car and stop to look at like the trees blooming.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, okay, can we go now? Like, so, it took me a while to catch up.
Okay, you're here now. Welcome. To
Welcome.
to the more present side of things.
Thank you so much.
I mean, I'm not perfect. Like Stevie, I'm like,
Oh, you're definitely not perfect.
I'm definitely not
No,
perfect.
I love you, but no, there's no perfect.
No, and I think that was a big growth that I had to go through too, with like thinking I had to be perfect growing up. I had to get the perfect score on everything. I wasn't the best test taker. Like I had a lot of insecurities and worth things. And I think what I want to teach Stevie is to not tie your worth to these external things that I grew up thinking were so important.
I think we all grew up thinking they're important, and then we realize they're not. Like that C in your math test is not a reflection of where you're sitting right now today. Yeah. It's just not. So,
I mean,
and everybody has to go through it, but
you get degrees. Just kidding.
Yeah.
So. But I don't think you ever thought I was gonna be doing this and working for myself.
No.
Like I think actually gave you a heart attack when I was like, oh, I'm not gonna do a 9-to-5 job anymore.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a worry, but I'm proud of you. Proud of you.
Can you just talk about things that I did that were in school or whatever that, I was shy, I think. I had like insecurities.
Yeah, well, certainly in middle school, I think it started. You hated reports. Yeah. You had so much anxiety. Your face would be bright red. We'd have to practice on 3x5 cards. You were a mess.
Yeah.
So, you made it through high school, but we always knew in college you must take public speaking.
Well, I think it was inspired.
Yes, and we were really worried about it. You were so worried about it. So you decided you were going to take public speaking 101 at the community college at home in the summer, online. So now let's really dissect that, like online public speaking. So I was like, who watches you? How do you learn to public speak when it's online? This is before Zoom and all these cool things that everybody does now.
This, like
but you did it, and you had to have an audience, which was some of our family, some of your friends, some of my friends, and you had to have like 6 or 8 people sit. We would sit in the office, and you would do your 4 or 5 presentations. You aced it and got an A, and that was huge. And then I think after you got your job and you moved to New York and you knew that you had a lot to say, you wanted to teach people, you talked about, healthy alternatives and worked with clients, you were asked to be on a lot of panels and podcasts, and you had to practice. And, now it's just comes very natural to you, because I do believe when you love what you're talking about, you can talk all day, which I think we're almost done with our all-day motherhood talk.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I feel so honored to be one of your guests, just an ordinary mom.
Just an ordinary mom, but you shaped who I am. I mean, growing up, I always, like I said, I felt like everything was celebrated. Like, even if we just do Passover dinner, we do holidays at your house, it's everyone's there, the family. Like, we get flowers, we make it a thing for Stevie's birthday. Like, even though it wasn't the most over the top thing I didn't want, but I wanted to celebrate it. And you've always like taught me, I think, to just celebrate things and to make these little occasions feel bigger and invite everyone, include everyone. And so I've always taken that with me. And I think it reminds me to celebrate life. And
that's great.
And with some rapid fire, but also just like advice that you would give to new moms, to young moms, from a geriatric older mother.
I hate when you say that.
Well, it's true. It's like 35. You're considered geriatric.
Okay. Do I look geriatric?
No. If people told you,
that's the one thing I try to look young, but Jake is only 22.
I have to call you out that you have never had Botox, never had anything to your skin, and people. Like, I admire that, because I don't want to do anything to my skin. I hope I look as good in my 60s as you. People think she's like my sister and think you're like,
I don't know about
40,
that,
50.
but thank you. That's so sweet. So some advice for moms, I would just say, we've touched a lot on some of them here already, but forgive yourself. you're not going to get it right all the time. There's no perfect. There's good days, bad days, and days in between. There's wins, there's losses. It's messy. It's not supposed to be perfection and organization. It took me a really long time. Save yourself from that. And also remember, I remember one day that I woke up and said, my mom is a person. She's not just my mom. And we are people. You're just a person doing the best you can, walking through this with your child. Most likely, if you're a new mom, for the first time, you've never done it before.
Mm-hmm.
And you just need to give yourself patience, kindness, love.
Yeah. You're also just a girl figuring it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Love you.
Wait, I want to end with I asked your children how they describe you as a mom. So I'll
Oh,
start
you did
with
do that.
yeah. So I'll start with Justin, your oldest stepson, which we don't say step, but just for context. He says he always loved that her family comes first, how selfless she is for her family. He doesn't like the term stepmom and the things that Wendy has done for me over the years. She's just a bonus mom. There's no one better. Cry at like literally commercials, and it's yeah,
True.
yeah. Natalie, older than me, stepdaughter. Wendy taught me grace in tough and trying situations, that carrying yourself that way will help guide you to what you want or need to get through it. Not quite fake it till you make it, but that strength is gradual. It was never a truly taught lesson, but one I learned from watching her in certain situations.
Oh.
I know I'm gonna cry. I didn't know I was gonna cry. Okay, Jake, your youngest son. She helped teach me my most important qualities as an adult: grit and determination, that with hard work, you can do anything you want, no matter the struggles or setbacks, and that I'll always have people in my corner to help me. And then I asked Matt, you can't ask for a better teammate than Wendy. She treats me as if I were her own. She will fight for her family until the very end and only wants the best for those that mean the most to her. I'm appreciative of how present and involved she is in my life. So I hope that
Oh,
makes you
what a
celebrated on Mother's
wonderful Mother's
Day.
Day. Thank
Yeah.
you. I will accept flowers and gifts as well.